Right, you're recording. Yeah, I can see the little
Oh yes,
flashing dot.
yeah. See it
Oh, that's
recording
great.
it. So okay.
Super. Okay. So street photography, personal journey. Very much so. This talk is about my journey into street. Um, Normal disclaimer. You probably get it from every speaker. This is just my thoughts on where I am. Okay, so I don't claim to be any particular guru or have any amazing knowledge or whatever. I'm just, if you like, sharing where I've got to in my photographic journey in this particular genre, and just exploring a little bit of the stuff around that. Before a few of you came on, I joined kind of about 20 minutes before 1:30, and we were talking about the club and the fact that you guys don't really do much kind of competition work and stuff. You're just really in it for the photography and for the members and stuff. And it's a lot of clubs that I've spoken to over the last few months are like that. The two or three clubs in Scotland as well, made that decision, and I think it's an interesting take on the club scene, because a lot of the club scene is very, very focused on achievements and LRPS and ARPS and, getting FIAPs and all this kind of stuff. And that's not where I am today. Okay, with this is a type of photography that I've got into because I'd lost the mojo for photography after 15 or 20 years of teaching photography to all kinds of different people, and this was a way back into enjoying being with a camera and enjoying the process. So that's kind of what I want to share with you today. So let me just start off and ask you a question. Anybody recognize this? Anybody know who took this shot? Lorraine does. Yeah, Lorraine does.
Cartier-Bresson.
Yeah, it's Henri Cartier-Bresson. It's HCB. Yeah. Yeah. It's the Behind the Gas en Lozère, 1932, and this is one of Time magazine's top 100 photos of all time. So, although you guys wouldn't maybe necessarily kind of do this, in terms of club competition and stuff, but what would happen if we put this up at Smethwick, say, or any of the competitive clubs? Yeah, if this was put into the club round and nobody recognised it as HCB, how do you think this would do in competition?
Well,
If I was judging, it'd come first.
yeah, but a lot of other judges wouldn't, because the sky's a bit burnt out and all.
Yeah, that's it. And he's not moving into negative spaces. He's going off frame rather than into frame.
And that figure in the railings behind, I think, might be spoiling it for me.
Yeah, no definition in the figure in the front. There's loads of kind of problems with it, aren't there? And that's what so many judges see, don't they? They don't see the meaning. They see the technical.
Joe was going to say, are they problems, or are they not looking at the picture?
That's it, isn't it? I mean, there's this difference, isn't there? And I think to some extent, club and salon photography at the moment is in the wrong place. I think this focus on competitiveness and on sharpness and on all those different technical aspects, which are really important to learn, but isn't photography an art form? Isn't photography a means of creative expression? To me, but I think most people's photographic journey, you kind of pick a camera up and you focus initially on learning the rules, don't you? You focus on learning what aperture is and what shutter speed is and what that does to a picture, and then you get into if in the old film days it was ASA, and could I afford a 400 or an 800, and now it's ISO, and how far can I push the ISO before I start getting noise and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think Henri Cartier-Bresson really worried too much about noise, did he? That probably wasn't high on his list of, I'm going to be a bit worried today about noise if I'm taking shots. So the stuff I'm going to show you today is stuff that I've done for me. It's not been done for competition. It's not been done for club. And whenever I've put up images in club competitions or you know, in a couple of salons, I just floated a couple just to see, oh, they crashed and burned. I mean, you know, they didn't do anything. I don't actually care, because these are for me, and these have made me happy, if you like. And if they make other people happy, great, that's fine. If they don't make other people happy, that's actually okay as well, because all your photos don't have to make other people happy. If they make you happy, if they satisfy your creative images and urges, then I think that's almost more important. Yeah, depending, obviously, you know, I mean, if you're shooting for a client, yes, you've got to make the client happy and stuff. But this isn't where I am today with this stuff. So, why street? I'm going to talk about kind of why street and stuff. We'll have a little look at the kit, because the kit has been an integral part of the journey into street. Maybe after the break, what I'll do is I'll load up an image straight out of camera in Lightroom, and I'm going to take you through an edit of the image in Lightroom, and then I'm going to drop it out into Nick Silver Effects as well, because Saxman here on the screen, this is the kind of look, if you like, that I've gone for with my street photography. So it's high contrast. It's quite kind of, you know, in your face. It's very black and very white. Burned edges, square crop, black and white. This is the look that I've kind of, if you like, adopted for this set of images that I've created over the last couple of years. And then I'll talk about the project and where that's taken me in terms of, you know, a few different places and ways of showing the photos. And then we'll finish off by going through some of the images and talking about the stories behind the images and stuff. So if that's okay, that's what I'll go with. Anybody wants to leave now? Now's the time.
I don't think so.
But stay. It's fun. We'll have a good time for the next hour and a half or so. So, alrighty, okay. So why street? Why street? I suppose if we rewind a couple of years, no, let's rewind 50 years. Okay, so I'm 57 at the moment, and if we rewind about 50 years, that's about when I got my first camera. And I think from the best recollection I've got, my first camera, I think, was one of the little flat 110 cameras that had the cartridge with the two round bits at each end that you popped in the back. And that was, to me, that was magic. It was a spy camera, because it looked like something that, you know, James Bond would use or whatever. And I shot my 110 camera for a number of years, and I got 2 or 3 of them and stuff. And when I got to about 14, I went up to my dad at the beginning of the summer, and I said, Dad, would you give me 20 quid? Right, and he looked at me and he said, why? And I said, I want to buy a ladder. Right, and he said, no. And oh. He said, no, I won't give you 20 quid, but I'll lend you 20 quid. Okay. Because he was kind of encouraging of us to be entrepreneurial. Okay. But he said, no, I'll lend you 20 quid, but you've got to pay me it back. Okay. So I went off, and with that 20 quid, I bought a ladder and a bucket and an S-hook and a trowel. You know? And I went round on my bike that summer to all the houses in the estate and in the surrounding estates. And I knocked on people's doors and said, can I clean your gutters? Yeah. And I charged them all £5 to shimmy up the ladder and dig out the gutters with my trowel and stuff. And by the end of the summer, and I was 14, I think 14 or 15 at this time, I'd made 1,500 quid. Yeah. Which was serious money for a 15-year-old, you know, in what, 1974, 75, something like that. So that bought me 2 things. It bought me my first Pioneer Stacker hi-fi. Do you remember those old black Stacker hi-fi systems with all the buttons and the LEDs and everything on? Oh, they were wicked, weren't they? Yeah. And I had that hi-fi phone for years and years and years. Yeah. But it also bought me my first proper camera. Yeah. And my first proper camera was a Zenit SLR. Yeah, built like a tank, probably made from old Russian tanks, I think, that they melted down, and a 58mm lens. It wasn't a zoom; it was a prime lens. One of the old M42, I think, 58mm. I wish I still had it. Actually, I've been thinking I should order one just to shoot that lens again because I love that lens. And I shot that for 6, 7, 8 years until I really went to college and started work, and then I just kind of didn't shoot for about 20 odd years, which is a real pity because in those 20 years, I kind of got to be a global manager with General Electric, and I had teams all over the world, and every week I was somewhere different. And I had teams in like Cairo and Singapore and Sao Paulo and all these incredible places, and I didn't shoot. And now I think, oh my goodness, I wish I'd shot all those amazing places, but I didn't. And, life went on, and I got to around about year 2000, and I moved to Ireland. My first wife had died a few months before, and I needed a new start. So I kind of just headed off and started again in Ireland. I was in a global role at the time, so it didn't matter where I lived, if you like, and I just wanted to start again. So I came over to Ireland, and I met a guy here who was an ex-professional photographer, a guy called Dave. And he wanted to teach. He wanted to start doing photography training. Now, I'm a teacher. My day job is that I run the Masters in Project Management at the business school in Dublin, the UCD Smurfit School of Business. And I created that program in about 2004 after I did the MBA there. And I've run it ever since. So that's the day job. And I do that a couple of days a week. And then I do some management consulting a couple of days a week. And I have a little photography training business, which I opened up in about 2003. Nikon asked me to be their Irish trainer around then. So for about 12 years, every 3 or 4 weeks, I would go to a hotel in either Dublin or Galway or Cork, and I would train 100 people in their new DSLR that they bought. And Nikon would give them this free half-day training, and I would deliver that. And I also trained all the pros in Ireland for those years, and did all the dealer training and stuff like that. And on the back of that, I kind of just opened up a little training business, doing one-to-ones and small groups and walks and all the normal kind of photographic training stuff. So when you're doing that and you're interacting with all these different types of photographer, and you're being asked to kind of train people in all these different things, you become reasonably competent in most areas of photography. So I can shoot a portrait, I can do a landscape, I can do a product shot. I can show people how to grab decent sports images, but I'd never done street. And it got to, like I say, about 2 years ago. It must have been mid-year, 2 years ago. And I was in one of those, I don't know whether you've ever been in one of those kind of creative slumps where you just kind of, you can take a technically good shot, but nothing's exciting you anymore. Yeah. And I was in one of those places, and I think I was also a little bit depressed just generally, but certainly with my photography, even though I could take, what most people would say would be a good picture, nothing was touching me emotionally, if you like, apart from pictures of kids and stuff like that. And it was just like this malaise. So one day I got a phone call from a company right near this cathedral in Dublin. This is Christchurch Cathedral in Dublin. And they wanted me to come in and train their management team on project management a couple of days a week for a few months. So took the contract, headed in the car that first morning. Now I'm 7 miles outside Dublin on one of the main arterial roads, the N4, going straight into Dublin. Okay, so it's a straight road, 7 miles long. It took me an hour and a half to get into Dublin. I could have walked it faster. Okay. So I got into Dublin and I wended my way up to Christchurch, and the Jury's Inn hotel here on the right that you can just see the writing there. They have a car park. So I parked in there and went and did the day's work and came out 5:30, went to the car park, and they charged me 35 quid for parking for the day. 35 quid? Bloody hell. You know, gee, you know, I had a heart attack. Yeah. And I kind of got home another hour and a half later, and I was giving out to Penny and saying, yeah, 35 quid. I mean, it's and 3 hours, an hour and a half in and an hour and a half back. I mean, it's hardly worth me going in for this contract. Yeah? And her next line is why I'm speaking to you today. Okay. Her next line was, Joe, why don't you take the bus? And I looked at her and I went, ugh, the bus? Kind of. And I had these visions of kind of, you know, buses in days gone by being these mucky, horrible things that you know, that the great unwashed used and stuff. And I've got a car, I don't go on the bus. And she said, go on and try the bus. And I said, the bus? She said, you know, it's not like it used to be. I said, they come on time and they've got the things above the bus stop and it tells you how long it is till the next bus. And it's only 200 yards away. You know, you can walk 200 yards. So I said, okay, all right. So the next morning she kicked me out the door and I walked around to the bus stop. Yeah, of course it was raining, but, you know. Anyway, so I got on the bus and 20 minutes later, I was on the quays, the other side of the cathedral there in Dublin. 20 minutes. Yeah, it's like magic, the bus lanes. Yeah, and we're just going past all these stationary cars, sitting on the N4, trying to get into Dublin, taking an hour and a half. And I'm on the bus, on the top floor, looking at them all, going by like this, and thinking, oh, this is sound, this is great. So I got off the bus, and it's like 8:20. Now, I'm not due in work till kind of 9:15 or whatever. So I just had a wander around Christchurch and a wander around the Liberties, which is, as we're looking at Christchurch there, the Liberties is a very old part of Dublin to the left of that picture. And it occurred to me that I'd never, ever walked around this part of Dublin before. I'd driven through it a few times, but I'd never, ever walked it. And you know what it's like when you walk the streets. You see things you've never seen before. You pick up far more of the environment and whatever. And it came to me, I need my camera. Yeah. And this was lovely. You know, I need my camera. I should bring my camera. There's only one problem with that, okay? And I'm going to turn off my my virtual background because I just want to show you a few things, and I can't do it with the virtual background. So you've got my mucky study with all my camera gear behind me now. So you'll have to just bear with it. Okay. So let me just stop the share of the screen a minute and just make me big on your screen. Put me in speaker view. This is my camera. Okay, so my normal camera is a Nikon D810 with the 24-70 lens. I mean, I've got the trinity of lenses and stuff, but this would be my workhorse lens and camera. Okay, now that is not going to go in a messenger bag with a computer. Okay, it's just not going to go in a messenger bag. And I don't know, the older I get, I love this camera. Don't get me wrong, I will never ever get rid of this camera. When my mum died and left me a bit of money, I bought the D810, I bought the pro lenses to go with it, and that was my jump into full frame. And you know, it moved me into a different area of photography completely. So this is the camera mum bought me, and I'm never going to get rid of it. Okay, but it's not the right tool for the job that I wanted to do now, which was a small light camera to take in with me when I went to work and to do a bit of shooting before work and maybe, you know, during the lunch hour break or whatever. So I had an opportunity. I was faced with this opportunity, and fortunately I had recognized that opportunity. So now the hunt was on. The hunt was on because I could actually kind of almost hand on heart say, I need a new camera. Yeah. And how often can you actually hand on heart say, I need a new camera? Yeah. Well, at least I convinced myself that I needed a new camera. Yeah. I didn't actually tell Penny at the time. That came later. We had that conversation later when one day she saw the new camera on the shelf and said, I haven't seen that before, have I? And I said, oh, yeah, I just picked that up a few weeks ago. Yeah, it's secondhand. Yeah. It didn't cost much at all. How much did it cost? Yeah, we had that conversation. Yeah, I still have the scars somewhere on to prove it. The camera that I got was this, which is a little bit different to this, isn't it? Yeah. I kind of went on, the photo sites and stuff and looked around for street photography and what camera should I get and all the rest of it. And Ricoh came up a lot. The little Ricoh GR came up a lot. But I wanted a camera that looked like a proper camera. Okay. I'm not Henri Cartier-Bresson, but I channel my inner HCB with this camera. Okay, and I mean the Fuji X series cameras are actually designed around the old Leica bodies, and I can't afford a Leica. I would love a Leica. Oh please, somebody help me win the pools or something, and I can go out and buy a Leica. But for now, the X series will have to do. And I eventually found the Fuji X series, and these cameras are just beautiful objects. Yeah, they are small objects of desire, definitely. Yeah. This one is the X100S, so it's the second X100. And what I love about this camera, there's a lot of things I love about this camera. It's just a perfect size. It's got a fixed lens, so you can't take this lens off, okay? But you can see it's a pancake lens. It's only a tiny little lens. It's kind of 3/4 of an inch deep. And it's got an aperture ring on it. So this ring at the back, I don't know whether you can see, let me turn it around. This ring at the back, you can see there, I'm moving it. You can see the aperture markings on the ring as I rotate it. So that's how you set your aperture. And then on the top of the camera, yeah, there we are. On the top of the camera, we've got these different dials. So that's the shutter speed dial. And this is the exposure compensation dial. Okay, so everything's on the outside. You set the ISO 200 or 400 or whatever. I normally set the ISO to 400 when I go street shooting, because you can go to 400 without any loss of quality, especially on a modern camera. But that's giving me another 2 stops of speed, which when you're shooting handheld, can make a difference, especially in the Dublin light, which is very often cloudy and relatively dark. I wanted to impose some rules, if you like, on myself. As I looked at street photography, I decided, right, I'm going to use this opportunity to try some new stuff. So I'm going to shoot as close to HCB as I can. Full manual. No autofocus. Okay. Fixed lens. 35mm equivalent lens. This is a 23mm lens, but because of the crop sensor, it's a 35mm equivalent. I just want to strip everything back and get back to raw photography without any of the bells and whistles, without any of the gadgets and gizmos. Okay. Now, I suppose what I should have done was go out and buy, an old film camera to do that properly. But no, I wanted to stay with digital because I think in Lightroom, and I love Lightroom, and I love post-processing and that. And I just haven't got the room here to set up a dark room. I've got a 3-bed semi, reasonably small house, an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. A dark room isn't on the cards. Yeah, my shed is full of rubbish. I can't even do it in there. So I'm stuck with digital for now. But this seemed to tick all the boxes, and it was only €400. I got it secondhand. So, I mean, they were still selling these new at the time for 1,200. And I picked it up for 400 from a lovely French guy in Dublin. And I got the lovely half case, which really made me feel like a proper photographer when I got the half case, you know. And I got that for £5 on eBay. Can you believe it? It's leather. It's a £5. So, and you put this around your neck and you don't know you've got it on. Yeah, whereas if I hang the D810 around my neck with, you know, even with the nifty 50 on, kind of, I need some scaffolding to kind of stand up when I've got that around my neck. It's heavy, and it pulls on your shoulders and all the rest of it. This thing is just beautiful. I just love this camera. Okay. Can you hear the difference in my voice between, like, I was in a creative slump and now when I'm kind of talking about this camera? Yeah. And that's what it did to me. It was like a shot in the arm. Yeah. So let me go back to my slides. Okay. So I'd been presented with an opportunity, but I'd also recognized an opportunity, and then I'd done something about it. So I'd gone off and I'd found myself a camera, which I could take in. So I started to go in every morning, and I'd get Penny to drop me off as on the school run. So she would drop me off at the bus stop for the 8 o'clock bus. I'd be in at 20 past. That would give me 45 minutes or so to walk around. And I could stay on the bus 2 or 3 extra stops and walk back through Temple Bar, or I could get off early near Houghton Station and wend my way up through that side of town or whatever. So I basically changed my route every day. And just started shooting. I know at the start I was really taking pretty crappy shots, but you know, I'm an experienced photographer. I've got an eye, so I started shooting and started getting more and more shots. But at the beginning, I had to face into the fear. Okay, so let's just go to fear. So we've talked about opportunity. Let's just talk about fear for a minute. A lot of people never do street photography because of this. And I certainly had to go through this, and I still do to some extent. The fear of, oh, can I take shots of people who don't know I'm taking their picture? What if people don't want me to take their picture? What if they, you know, they beat me up? What if they take offense? What if they demand that I delete all my shots? All these kinds of fearful things about taking shots in public of other people. Yeah. And it's absolutely, I thought it was just me. And then I started reading about it, you know, and posting questions in some of the forums and stuff. And I found it's not just me, it's everybody. Everybody goes through this fear. So there I am on Henry Street, which, if any of you know Dublin, is one of the streets off O'Connell Street, just about where the Spire is, right in the middle of Dublin. And I'm walking down the street with my camera, and off to my right, I become aware of this just stunningly gorgeous young woman. I mean, every now and then you come across somebody, you know, who is just like drop dead gorgeous. And this young lady was just incredibly gorgeous. And somehow she was standing on the street 10 yards in front of me in Dublin that morning. And I kind of saw her in the corner of my eye, and, you know, it crossed my mind, oh, yeah, wouldn't it be lovely to get a shot of her? Yeah, but I can't. Yeah, fear. Yeah. And I distinctly remember the thought going through my head, face the fear. Okay, just do it, face the fear. What's the worst that can happen? Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Okay, so I faced the fear, and I angled my way over to her, and I walked up to her, and I said, I'm shooting some street photography. I'm just getting into it, and I don't suppose you want me to, but could I take your picture? Could I take your portrait? And she was a little bit surprised, but she kind of said, "Oh, yeah, no problem." Okay. So I kind of fumbled my way through taking a couple of quick snaps of her and mumbled some thank you or other and walked away. And I was so discombobulated by the whole thing. You know, I didn't even give her a card or my name or offered to send her a copy of the shot or anything. But I was feeling also very, very pleased with myself that I'd actually managed to face this fear and take this picture. You know? And when I got home and I found that it actually came out, I was even more surprised. You know, I actually managed to get it in focus. Yeah. Brilliant. So result. So I processed it up and I popped it up onto Instagram. And at the time, I didn't know this lady's name. So I titled the photo Aphrodite, and I wrote a little bit about it. And I said, you know, it's not often in Dublin when you're wandering around on Henry Street that a goddess falls to earth in front of you. But that's what happened to me today. And I'm pretty sure it was Aphrodite. Yeah. So I kind of wrote this little piece about it. And at the bottom, I said, you know, it'd be great if I could send whoever this is a copy of the shot, but I don't suppose I'll ever find out who it is. And less than 24 hours later, I got an email from her. And her name is Madalena. And it turns out she was in Dublin for the day, but she's actually a very well-known news anchor and model and presenter in Romania, of all places. She's kind of like Sheila Shog is in Ireland. You know, everybody knows her face and stuff. Or you know, whoever the current news presenter is on BBC News or whatever, she's like that. So I sent her a copy of the picture and she was really happy with it and sent me a lovely thank you back and all the rest of it. But that was my first facing the fear. Yeah. I love barbershops. Don't know what it is about barbershops, but whenever you look into a barbershop window, there's something going on. You know, there's some activity. They might just be sweeping the floors. They're cutting hair. They're having a good chat or whatever. There's always something going on. So they draw me. They're like magnets to me when I'm walking doing street photography. And this was one of the first barbershops windows that I came across. And probably the thing on the right, the girl on the right in the poster there, you know, probably caught my eye. And then as I got to this window and I lifted my camera and I took this shot, he just makes eye contact with me through the window. And the reason I'm still talking about fear is because he looks a bit kind of like, what are you doing? Doesn't he? There's that kind of inquisitorial kind of, hey, what are you doing thing. And this is how I respond when people engage me. Yeah. I smile at them. I generally give them a thumbs up. Yeah. And show them a camera, which they already have seen anyway. Yeah. And I go up to them and I engage with them and I chat to them and I say, hi, my name's Joe. I'm doing some street photography. I just got a lovely, I think what is a lovely shot of you. Would you like to see it? Yeah. So that's what I did. I stuck my head in the door and I said, hope you don't mind. I'm doing some street photography. I just got a lovely little shot of you guys. Do you want to have a look at it? And I got away about 20 minutes later after they'd gone through my whole camera and we looked at all the shots and we had a really good chinwag and you know, I knew all the names by the time I'd finished and whatever. And I dropped him a copy of the shot off next time I was in Dublin, and he actually put it up in his shop. He was really pleased with it. So that was lovely. But I found that this fear thing, if people think you're taking stuff surreptitiously, then you know, there might be a little bit of to and fro, but I found that whenever anybody engages with me, that open kind of, you know, here we are. Yeah, I'm not hiding anything or whatever. Would you like to see it? Has defused every single situation. And I've never had anybody be aggressive or whatever. And I think it's because I always smile. First thing you do, smile. And smiles just tend to defuse things anyway. So that was that story. This was a very new genre. I saw her going in for this kiss. I was walking across the other side of the street and I actually saw her walking towards, you know, presumably what is her boyfriend, and going up for this kiss. And I had probably about 2 or 3 seconds to get this shot. And I remember I just walked off the pavement straight into the road, brought the camera up and took a couple of shots just as she went in for the kiss. And I think it was the second shot that actually got the kiss. Thank goodness there wasn't a bus coming, because I'm sure I would not be here if there had been a bus coming. But fortunately there wasn't a bus. I love the contrasts of the stone, and you've got the wet stone, it's been raining, so you've got all the detail of the stone, which again my processing will pull out even more of and stuff like that. But one of the things about street, and one of the things that stretches you when you're doing street, is you've got to be hyper vigilant. It's not like a landscape where you can set up. I mean, I do a landscape talk and I talk about, you know, the fact that I love to set up. And I might take 15 or 20 minutes to set up the tripod and the camera and get the horizon level and actually find just the right spot, you know, with some leading lines and a foreground and a midground and all this kind of stuff. With street, you've got literally seconds to get the shot, because the elements of a shot are coming together, and in another second they'll be gone. So that's a stretch when you've been used to studio work, or you've been used to, you know, portraits, or you've been used to landscapes where typically you have longer to plan and to think and to, you know, really set things up. Here it's reactive. You can set your camera up, and this is again, you know, so I wanted to teach myself zone focusing. I wanted to teach myself manual focus. I wanted to just, if you like, hone my craft of photography in a way that perhaps I'd lost touch with the fancy electronics of, you know, the big Nikons and all the rest of it. And I think I'd become, you know, almost dependent on autofocus and on all the fancy technological gadgetry and stuff. And I almost wanted to strip that all back. So I went out with my camera every day, 2 or 3 days a week that I was in Dublin. And I would shoot for 45 minutes or an hour before work. And then I would shoot for an hour at lunchtime. And I would come home, and each evening I would drop all the photos into Lightroom, and I would, you know, pick the ones that I thought were okay. And maybe I'd come home with 150, 200 shots. So I would typically be getting maybe 25 or 30 kind of keepers, you know, that I was happy with. So I was processing those up, and what I decided to do fairly early on was I would also create each day. Oh, I'm not plugged in. Let me just plug my laptop in, otherwise I'm going to lose power. There we are. Yeah, lights on. Right. Each day I was going to create a panel. So I was going to take from the shots of the day, and I would create a panel. And like, I don't know whether any of you have done panels, but a panel is like another image in a way. When you assemble a panel, you've got to find images that work together. So let's just have a look at this panel. This is a 12 image panel. Sometimes I do 8, sometimes I do 10. You know, probably 10 is most common, but this was a 12. Now, the images in this panel are placed carefully, and they're thought about carefully. So we start with the corners normally on a panel like this. So top left, lady reading the paper. The line of that shot is leading the eye down and in. Okay, she's looking down at the paper, and that line is moving us into the panel. Bottom left, the columns, the squares on the street, the lady walking with the umbrella is walking up into the picture. So she's taking the eye in. Okay, Saxman, top right, the line down through his body and then through his case and the line of the street is all taking us into the image. And then bottom right, he's looking into the image. And then the left and the right middle, he's walking in, she's walking in. Okay, and that leaves the center of the panel for shots that are much more kind of vertically focused, if you like, rather than moving us particularly one way or another. Okay, so thinking about what would come together to tell a story and work as a cohesive set of images. Okay. My creative juices were flowing now. Yeah, I was loving the processing. I was loving thinking about which of the images from my shot that day would make my cut of kind of, you know, my 25 or 30, and then which ones would make the cut down to 8 or 10 for the panel. So this was really kind of giving my brain a workout and giving my senses a workout. And I was looking at these pictures and I was thinking about the stories. And I was thinking about what are these evoking in me, and what might these images evoke in others. And to me, this is the soul of street. This is what street photography is all about. It's about story. It's about movement and meaning, and hopefully evoking some kind of a reaction in the viewer. Yeah, you know, I mean, this one here, you know, the eyes have it, don't they? And it's kind of like a funny image. Yeah, and you kind of catch her with the kind of clowny nose and all the rest of it, and hopefully it makes you smile. Yeah, the lovely little old lady here at the bottom. I'm just trying to move. There we are. Yeah, I mean, I just fell in love with her as soon as I saw her. I thought she was just a beautiful little old lady, and she looked happy, and it was a miserable cold day. And she was going off, and there was this little bit of uplighting that just illuminated her face from light coming off the pavement and stuff. Just fabulous. So what's the story in the image that I can tell? Okay, so that became, you know, part of the process for me, and part of the enjoyment for me. How are we doing on time? Let's have a very quick just scan through the kit, and then we'll have a 10-minute break. Okay, and during the break, I'm going to load Lightroom up, and then we'll do a little bit of processing. So I took you through the D810, big, heavy, and bulky. I took you through the X100S, which was a little gem of a camera. The only problem with the X100S was, and I found that this after, you know, I'd been shooting with it for 3 or 4 months, I was missing a good number of shots with it. And I was missing a good number of shots because primarily this camera is designed to be used as a kind of, you know, in-your-face rangefinder camera like this. So you've got to lift the camera up to take the shot. And that process of lifting the camera up on the street generally catches people's eye. Okay. And I know HCB, I mean, if you've ever seen videos of him running around, he literally was skipping and running around and in and out and toing and froing, and he would, you know, just do this and click, and just do this, boom, boom, boom. You get tired just watching him taking his photos. I'm a little bit slower, but when I lifted the camera, I was finding that a lot of the candid shots that I was hoping for, I was missing because the person who I was going to take the shot of, and at 35 mil, you're 10, 15 feet away from somebody. So they're aware of you when you make that movement. And I wanted to get past that in some way. And I tried shooting from the hip, but I was missing it. Even with zone focusing, I was missing it and stuff. And I talked to Penny, my wife, about it, who is a pretty good photographer herself. And she said, well, you're trying to go back to the old days, aren't you, with all this stuff and stuff? Well, what were those cameras with the 2 lenses in on the front? Yeah, and she's talking about the old twin lens reflex cameras. Yeah, in fact, I've got one up here. So if you're wondering what I'm going on about, I'm talking about one of these cameras. Yeah. Lovely, lovely little beast. This camera is, yeah. And the nice thing about these cameras is when you shoot with these cameras, you stand with the camera here and you're looking down in here. Okay, so you're looking vertically, but the camera's pointing that way to take the shot. Yeah? So Just shut that one down. Yeah. Put the lens back on. Okay. So I bought her another little Fuji camera for Christmas, and it had a flippy screen on it. So she said, "Well, why don't you use my camera with a flippy screen?" So I took that in for a couple of days, and I tried the flippy screen and tried looking down at the flippy screen and taking the shot with the camera looking forward, and I got every shot. But that was her camera, and I couldn't take that off her. That wouldn't have been fair, would it? So the second time in about 4 months, I got to a point where I needed a new camera. I'm not divorced yet, really. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how, but I needed a new camera. Yeah.
My grandson used to say, "I need it."
I need, yeah. So, my next camera, probably my last camera, is this one. And this is the Fuji X-T2. So it's the X series again.
Joe, you'll soon probably have as many Fujis as I've got.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to my age, when you've got to dump the Nikons because of the weight.
Well, indeed. That's it.
I've got an X-T2, an X Pro 2, and an XE2 converted to infrared, and they're fantastic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they are, aren't they, John? I love them. I really am. And I'm shooting Fuji now for almost everything. I won't get rid of the Nikons, but I'm shooting Fuji for almost everything. I'm shooting it for landscape. I'm shooting it for portrait work. The only time I shoot the Nikon is when I really need the pixels. You know, if I've been asked to do a big billboard or something like that, and then the 36 megapixels will you know, give me a little bit of an edge. But yeah, I mean, so I picked up the X-T2, and as you can see, I've even got an L bracket on it, because that it gives me a little bit of an extra grip on this side if I just run the L bracket out like this. But I can also then, you know, shoot with it on the tripod left and right, nice and easily. But the nice thing about this camera is that it has a flippy screen. Let me just stop my share so you can see me big. There we are. So if you're seeing me big on the screen now, you'll be able to see this better. So it's got a flippy screen. So if I want to, I can pull the back screen up like this. So now I can look down on the screen, and the camera is taking the shot. Yeah. But the screen doesn't just open that way. It also, if I turn the camera vertically, yeah, it'll also flip up this way as well. So it'll flip up both that way and from the bottom. So it's really, really good from that perspective. And I think it's the only one of the Fujis that actually has that ability to flip both ways. And I got the black one because I wear a black coat, and black against the black coat is pretty much invisible. And so this has become my go-to camera. And I'm using this all the time now, very successfully. It's also got 24 megapixels, whereas the old one had 16, to be honest. But, you know, it just gives me that little bit of extra ability to maybe crop in, to get a shot from a little bit further away if I can't get close enough straight away on the street, which occasionally happens. Now, the other thing is this one, I can take the lenses off, okay? But what I have done, as you can see, is I've ended up with, I'll just take the lens hood off. I've ended up with a pancake lens on. So I've ended up with a little 27mm Fuji lens, because if I hold the two of them up together, you can see they're virtually the same size. So I'm, you know, with the 27mm pancake lens on, this is giving me a 40mm equivalent. And that extra 5mm is pretty good actually on the street, because it just gives you just that little extra bit of reach, but still giving you a wide enough shot to kind of, you know, get the street in. I don't want to be shooting at 85 mil or 135 mil. I want to be shooting at 35 or 40 mil. That's the kind of look I like on the street. And this is just beautiful. But all the other things are the same. You know, all the dials are on the top. You can see the dials are on the top. I haven't got an aperture ring on the front of this lens, which I miss. So I actually have to set the aperture using this little wheel here. But, you know, I can live with that. I can live with that. So, so that is my current kit. And after several months, Annie started talking to me again. And she's enjoying the pictures now. She reminds me of it now and then, that I actually do not need another camera. Okay. And I don't need another camera. And the XT3 came out, and the XT4 came out, and I looked at them, but no, I don't need them. You know, I don't need the extra bells and whistles, because I'm not using the bells and whistles. The only bell and whistle that I am using, and I love this, okay. Well, yeah. Have you guys, John, you've got Fuji, so maybe some of the others of you haven't experienced Fuji, but have you played with focus peaking?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
While we're on about adapters,
yeah,
you can use your Zenith. Is it an industrial lens, the 50 mil Zenith lens? You can use that with an adapter on your XT.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, so I've got. Let's have a look. Here's my Nikon Fit Nifty 50. Okay, and this on the back of it, this bit is the adapter that you can see on screen. Okay. Let me just kill the screen. Stop the share. Okay, so there we are. So there's that adapter. So the back of the adapter, that's the bit that goes onto the Fuji body. On the front of this adapter, this particular front is the Nikon Fit. Yeah, but you can buy these adapters for about €20. There's no electronics, so it's just like they're just passed through. There's no glass or anything. Yeah, but I can get an adapter with a Canon Fit, or I can get an adapter with an M42 Fit or a Leica Fit. Any lens that I want to put on my Fuji, all I need to do is buy one of these adapters. Yeah, and I can mount any lens on the Fuji. Now, full manual, you lose all the electronics. Okay, but I'm not using the electronics, so it doesn't actually matter. So I can use all my old Nikon lenses with this adapter. Now, I'm not going to put my big, heavy Nikon lenses on, you know, an adapter like this. So the Nifty 50 is fantastic, because that's now giving me a nice sharp 75 mil portrait lens. Mm-hmm. And I was worried when I started, and I thought about that. I thought, well, you know, I'm going to have to focus manually, and my eyes are not as good as they were. And how am I going to manage this? So this is where focus peaking comes in. Focus peaking is this magic technology that is in, I don't know whether it's in the SLRs yet, but it's certainly in all the mirrorless cameras.
I don't think it is in many SLRs.
No, I think it's just in the and what happens with focus peaking? Let's imagine that you're taking a portrait shot. So you're at 1.8 or you're at 2.8. You know, you're at a narrow depth of field. Yeah, and you know, as you focus through an image, yeah, the depth of field. So if you were kind of going to shoot me, yeah, you might find that my nose came into focus first, and my eyes were still slightly soft, and my ears were very soft when you've got that very narrow depth of field. Well, what focus peaking does is it kind of gives everything within the depth of field, within the focus plane, it kind of gives this white shimmery look to it. It puts dots around all the edges of everything that's within the focus plane. It's like seeing rain going across a cornfield. Yeah, it's that. So you can see exactly what's in focus by where the white shimmery dots are. Yeah? And I don't know about the other makes, but with Fuji, and this is where it comes in for shooting people, the focus peaking on the Fujis, when the eyes are in focus, the pupils turn white. So, you know, shoot when you see the whites of their eyes. Yeah. You know, remember the old Western movies and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, now with focus peaking and the Fuji, shoot when you see the whites of their eyes. Yep. As soon as the pupil of their eye goes white, and that's a really good visual indicator. Yeah. Now you know you're in focus. And I hit my mark 9 times out of 10, manually focusing with the Fuji. Whereas manually focusing with the Nikon, even though I know there's the little red dot in the viewfinder that tells you you're in focus and stuff, but I was missing it very, very regularly because my eyes just weren't picking the focus up as well. But this signal of this focus peaking is phenomenal. Yeah. So I had a couple of lenses. I'm not sharing, am I? I had a couple of lenses. One of which was a lens that I bought early on in my photographic career before I could, you know, afford proper Nikon glass, if you like. And this is a little Vivitar lens. It's a series 1 Vivitar lens. It's the one on the right on the screen there. €100, new from Adorama in the US. 85mm portrait lens, and I've shot stuff for this with this lens for clients. I've had salon accepts and competition wins with this lens. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands on expensive glass. And this is a beautiful, light little manual focus lens, which has stood me very well and sits on my Fuji really nicely. And because of the crop factor, turns into a 135. So that's a lovely little lens that I use quite regularly with the Fuji. And the other one, the one on the right, on the left on the screen there, is this little lens here. And this is a little Mikey lens, which I got from, I think, Digital Rev in Hong Kong. And it's a 25mm. So it's a 37, 38mm equivalent. And this is a Fujifit lens as well, so I don't even need the adapter on this. €65 this cost me. And about a third of the images in my Streets of Dublin collection are shot with this lens. And the reason I love this lens, and I'll show you later when I show you a shot of Bill, is it gives you that lovely swirly bokeh like you used to get on the old Helios lenses. You know, the old 58mm Helios prime lenses that you shot on the Zeniths and stuff like that. And this lens gives you very similar bokeh look to that old Helios lens, which is one of the reasons why I've fallen in love with it. Okay, let us have a quick break, and then I will take you through the workflow of one of my images. Okay, so I'm just going to run down and make a cup of coffee. 10 minutes? Yeah. Is that long enough for everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll leave my screen on and stuff, and I'll just run down and get a coffee, and then I'll come back and we can have a chat.
I'm going to pause the recording for the moment and resume it later when you return.
Okay, John. Super.
I've got an option to stop or pause, so I'll pause.
Because particularly, yeah, there we are. Particularly for this next bit, it might be useful. So I'm going to share my Lightroom screen. You all now seeing Lightroom with one image?
Yeah.
Yes.
Super. Okay. So what we have here is a not particularly good image that was just from one of my sessions out in Dublin. And I'm just going to take you through, if you like, how I would turn this into one of my normal images and the thought processes that kind of go through my head. Now, when I shoot my street stuff, I have the camera set that when I look at the images on the back, they are shown to me as black and white. So there's a setting in the Fujis where you can tell it to show you the images in black and white. So I'm shooting RAW. I always shoot RAW. Okay, so it's capturing all the color information, but what's being shown me on the back of the screen is in black and white. When I import images into Lightroom, if I just click on the import button for a minute, it'll just bring up the import dialog. So here's the import dialog. So, you know, you'd pop your card in and it would pop up on the left-hand side. The images would appear in the middle here, yeah. On the right-hand side, one of the options in these options over here is apply during import, okay? And you can apply settings to all the images that you import automatically by using this little area here. So you can apply keywords. So I might put keywords in like street, Dublin, yeah, liberties or whatever, that are going to apply to all the images that are coming in from this particular batch. But another thing you can apply are develop settings, and develop settings are presets. So you know there's presets that come with Lightroom, or you can buy sets of presets, or you can create your own presets. And to create your own preset, all you need to do is just open up any old image, okay? So for instance, I have a preset in here, down in my user presets, yeah, called black and white 1, B&W 1. There it is, okay? And all I've done there is I've gone into an image, and I've gone into develop, and I've done very few things. I've just changed from color to black and white. So it just shows me the image as black and white on the screen. And I've done no other processing. And I've just saved that one change as the preset called black and white 1. So if I apply that to the images as they're imported from the card onto the computer, then when I get to the image in the grid view in Lightroom here, yeah, the treatment will be set to black and white, okay? So that's what I'll see. And that's what I do with all my street work, because I find that if I see a color image, I kind of mentally process it differently than if I see it just as a black and white image. So I've set my workflow up so that my street stuff I only ever see as black and white. I see it as black and white on the back of the camera, and then as soon as it comes into Lightroom, I see it as black and white when it's in the grid view. So I never actually see the color image. The only time I might see the color rendition of the image is in that grid view on the import screen, where they're all tiny anyway, and they're not big enough for me to worry about. So this is what I get when I open up. So I will hit the D key for develop, okay, and that takes me into the develop module. And then typically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shut down that left-hand panel, so that I can see the whole of the image, okay? Now, my normal workflow, and this is pretty much across the board, whatever I'm shooting, is transform, crop, white and black point, and then my rest of my edits, okay? And there's a very definite reason for that. So transform sorts out the verticals. Okay, and if you've got things like keystoning or you know, buildings like this and stuff, if you do the transform, it's going to then impose a crop, because you're going to lose some of your image and stuff like that. Okay, there's no transform to be done on this. It's a 35mm image. There's very little, if any, keystoning. But I do need to sort my verticals out, because it's a little bit on the slosh, and I do like my verticals to be vertical. I'm a bit OCD like that. So let's hit the R key, which is the shortcut key to get into crop. Okay. Now, if I go back to the library module, G is the grid view. That takes you straight back into library module. Actually, so the way I would actually get into the crop tool is I choose my photo in grid and I hit R from here, and that will take me into develop and open the crop tool. Okay. So learning these little shortcuts can actually speed things up, rather than you having to click into develop and then click on the tool. So I decided on a few things we talked about earlier on in terms of, I'm just going to even the light up on my face there. It's getting a bit bright from the outside. That's a little better. Yeah. So I talked about square crop. So I know that I want this to be a square crop. So let's go over here and just choose the 1-to-1, which is the square crop. Okay. It's too bright. So there's my square crop. Now, if I go outside the crop area with my mouse, you see I get the little two-headed arrow. That allows me now to rotate the image. So I can just rotate the image and by eye pick out whatever the most important vertical is. And actually in this particular image, the most important vertical is that street light just behind the right-hand girl there. So as long as that's vertical, I'm going to be happy. Okay, so that's there. Now, a little mantra for you. I use this with all my photography students, and it's a really good little mantra, both when you're actually taking a shot, but also when you're deciding on composition, post-processing as well. Subject, background, corners. Subject, background, corners. Okay. Now the subject of this shot is quite obviously going to be the two girls. So that's our subject. So where do we put our subject to, you know, maximize the impact of the shot? So I think probably we want the girls somewhere over on the right-hand thirds line. Yeah, walking into some negative space here, because we've got the movement of the lines of the road, of the path here, taking us through the shot down to the bottom left-hand corner. So we want the girls somewhere over there. Now, let's just have a look at the histogram. Okay, so where were we? We were there, weren't we? So look at the histogram at the moment, which is over on the right-hand side in the top right-hand corner. And if I'm over there, just click on me and drag me off. Put me in the bottom left-hand corner. There's nothing happens in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, because I want you to see the histogram. The histogram is a representation of all the tones across the image. So the darker areas of the shot are shown here, and there's no complete black. There's quite a lot of very dark shadows, and then we've got lots of mid-tone grays, and then we've got a little bit of brighter areas, but nothing that's totally blown out, hitting the right-hand edge. Okay, so you see this bit of sky here. That's that peak over on the right. This very, very dark window here, and the black of the two girls' tops, that's probably that little bit of darker area on the very left-hand side. And then this big mid-tone spike here, and all this going on in the middle. This is the gray that we've got of the buildings and of the pavement. Okay, so this is where but if I change the crop, let's say I pull this corner down, and we get rid of the sky. Look what happens to the histogram. Yeah, so there's with the sky. And then as I get rid of the sky, that right-hand edge of the histogram disappears because there are no bright tones left anymore. Okay, so you do your cropping, and then you expand out the tones of the image once you've done your crop, because doing the crop will change the balance of the tones in your image. Okay, so there's my crop. So what I want to do is I want that right-hand girl on the right-hand thirds line. And I mean, classically, we would be told, put the face of the subject on the intersection point of the thirds. Okay, but that means I've got all this sky, and I don't want this sky because the girls are relatively dark, and that sky is bright, and the eye is taken to the brightest area in the picture. I don't need sky in this picture. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the girls up so that maybe her bum bag is on the thirds intersection. She's on that thirds line. Okay, that's fine. We've got enough space down here for them both to walk into. So we've got nice negative space. So subject is okay. Background, yeah, there's nothing that I've got rid of that sky. Corners, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. This corner is annoying me. The top left-hand corner is too bright. Okay, so what I want to do is I don't want to crop down any further towards the girl's head, but I do want to get rid of this. So I'm going to crop in from the bottom left until I've just got rid of that bright area in the top left. And that is my composition now. Okay, so now I've cropped. So there's my composition. Now let's have a look at the histogram again. Okay, it's a bit of a gray image at the moment. And with black and white, and certainly the way I like to process black and white, I want there to be a full tonal range from the deepest blacks to pretty much, you know, white as white in the image. So we're very, very light on bright areas in the image here. There's nothing. The white slider and the exposure slider will both do that. So exposure is going to move everything to the right. It's going to brighten up the whole image. So let's try that. Okay, well, that's not bad. So that's kind of brought things up a little bit. If I just even just give it, you know, 0.4 of a stop, less than half a stop of additional exposure brings that out a little bit more, okay? Now remember, the original frame was correctly exposed. The original frame, before we did the cropping, yeah, had full highlights and full dark, and it had tones all the way through. So it was a correctly exposed image. But because I've got rid of a lot of the bright tones in the sky with the crop, this is why we need to just adjust the exposure of the image generally, just to bring out a little bit more of the overall brightness, just by, say, half a stop, something like that. And then I want to just push the whites a little bit further, and I push the whites to the right until you see this little triangle in the top right-hand corner of the histogram. Just keep an eye on that triangle as I move the white slider. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making the brightest areas of the image brighter until that triangle goes white. Okay, so once it goes white, I'm starting to clip my whites. I'm starting to get whites that are blowing out. Yeah, so I just generally will go until I see that triangle go white, and then I'll just pull back until it stops being white. There we are. And now you see that's brought that wall up, and it's brought up the background brightness a little bit. Now, just in there, let me just open up the left-hand panel here. I want to go into like 4:1 or 8:1, really, really close in. There we are. And I just want to sort out that these two blobs, because they're quite distracting. They're very, very bright in the background. Okay, so I'm just going to take a radial filter, and I'm going to just draw a little circle on that blob there. My machine's just doing a go slow. There we are. Yeah, I'm going to hold the Alt key down. You see where it says effect? If I hold the Alt key down or the Option key on a Windows machine and click reset, it'll zeroize all these sliders all at once. Bang. Yeah, so the Alt or the Option key and then that top left-hand word there, yeah, zeroizes all the sliders just for this particular radial filter. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the whites all the way down in that radial filter, and you see what it's done. Look at the difference between that one and that one. Yeah, it's just going to make it blend back into the background, and I want to duplicate that radial filter over here. So I'm just going to right click on the middle of the radial filter, duplicate. So now I've got two radial filters stacked one on top of the other. So I can just now click on the top one and just drag it over and pop it over there. All right, and then that's just knock those two down. And now I can go back over here to fit. Yeah, and you can see as I turn those radial filters off, yeah, that those are just not taking the eye away like they were before. Okay, if I show you the before and after, so let's go back through the history there. Go back to here. And look at those traffic lights. So that's before the edit. And that's after the edit. Yeah, they're just not taking the eye away. Little tiny things like that are important. So I've got my white point set. My black point is okay. The histogram on the left is fine. I don't need to do any more there. So what else am I going to do? I want to pull out detail. So clarity and texture. Now, up until 2 versions of Lightroom ago, we only had clarity. And if we just bang the clarity up, we're going to get lovely detail coming out because clarity is mid-tone contrast. But it kind of makes everything a bit crunchy. Okay, so it's all right, but it's not really what I want. What I want is this new slider called texture. Texture is magic. Okay, texture is one of the best things that ever happened to Lightroom. It's what clarity should have been, but never was. If you've got photos going back in your collection over the last few years with fur or feathers or grass or stone, okay, fur, feathers, grass and stone, the texture slider will bring them to life in a way that you've probably never been able to bring them to life. What texture does is it works on what's called the high frequency parts of an image, the really detailed parts of an image, but it basically ignores parts of the image that have very little detail in. So have you ever applied clarity to an image where there's maybe a landscape and you've got lovely fluffy clouds in the sky and you've got grass and a lake in the front or whatever, and the grass all pings, doesn't it? When you put the clarity on it, the grass comes out, yeah. But you've also now got crunchy clouds with those dark undersides that look like, some HDR nightmare, yeah, because you've overdone the clarity. Texture ignores clouds, it ignores sky, and it ignores skin tone, okay? But it zooms in on all the high frequency stuff like grass and fur and feathers, and you will bring out more detail in fur and feathers with the texture slider than you will believe is actually in the image. So if you do nature photography or wildlife or anything like that, go back and process some of those old images using the texture slider. It is phenomenal. Okay, so I'm going to use texture, and I'm going to bang texture all the way up to 100. So let's have a look at without, and look at things like the pavement. Without, with. I'm getting lots and lots of detail in the pavement. I'm starting to get more detail coming out on the wall, but it's not making the skin of the girls crunchy, and it's also bringing out a bit more detail in the foliage at the back, okay, which is what I want. So I want that. Now I've done that, let's go down to this third tab, which once I've in black and white, this third tab is now B and W. If I go back to color, yeah, that third tab is HSL and color. But when you change to black and white, that tab changes to B and W. Okay. Now, remember I said I shot in RAW. So when you shoot in RAW, you capture all the color tones in the image. What this tab allows you to do is adjust the underlying color and represent it as shades of gray. So let's take the greens. If I move the green slider to the left, watch the trees behind the girls, because they're green. Okay, nothing else is being affected because that's the only green in the image. If I want to brighten the greens up, I can brighten them up by going the other way. Okay, so do I want to go left or do I want to go right? Well, if I go left, I've darkened the greens off, but the girl's hair is dark, her top is dark, and I'm going to lose her into the background. Yeah, and what I want to do with this processing is I want to pull her, if you like, off the background and give some separation, some visual separation. So I'm actually going to really ramp those greens up to being brighter. And you see that now, that kind of outlines the girl better. She's now off the background. Yeah, I might push that a little bit more with the yellows, just to give a little bit more contrast. Okay. Now, what do the blues do? Okay. They're working on the greys in the paving, but I'm also getting, there's obviously quite a bit of blue in this wall, because look what happens to the detail in that wall. Yeah, you're suddenly starting to see a lot of this detail come out. So I'm going to pull the blues way down. Let's see whether the purples will give me any more. No, purples aren't going to do a lot more. They're just really playing with the purples in the background there. That's fine. Magenta, the only thing that's really moving much with magenta is this sign and this planter here. So Do I want the sign to be dark or bright? I'm going to leave it bright because it just blends into the wall a little bit more and it's not as distracting. So the only other two colors are red and orange. Now, in black and white processing, when you've got skin tones, you've got to be really careful with red and orange, okay? Let's just give the girls a fake tan, shall we? Let's take that orange slider. Yeah. If I go the other way, it's going to brighten their skin up. So I'm actually just going to pull their skin up a little bit more using the orange slider. There we are, something like that. Okay. And the red, again, the red will work on their skin quite a bit. So again, I can just bring their skin up a little bit using the red, something like that. That's a bit, maybe even a bit too much, something like that. And the only other adjustment I'm going to make in Lightroom is I'm just going to do another quick radial filter, and I just want to see whether I can bring a bit more detail out on her top, because I think there's some detail in that top that I could bring out a bit more. So I'm just going to draw a radial filter over her kind of torso. There we are. And again, I'm going to just just zeroize all the effects. So hold the Alt key down or the Option key and just reset. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out within that radial filter, I'm going to pull out the shadows. Okay. So this is only working within that radial filter area. But look what it's done. It's given me all the detail of the kind of ruching on the top of her top, just by pulling out the shadows. A little bit more detail there. Okay. I could maybe push the blacks a little bit as well. Just brighten that up a little bit. And again, if I want to do the same thing to her top, again, right click on the radial filter, duplicate it. So now we've got one on top of the other, and then just pull this one over to here. And then I can just maybe make this a bit smaller because she's not quite as big an area as the first girl. Just leave it to there. Okay, so that'll do. So that's my initial edit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this out, photo, edit in, and I'm going to edit this in Nik Silver Effects Pro, which is another add-in to Lightroom that I use a lot. So we'll just give that a second to do it. So it's going to edit this Lightroom adjusted copy. It's going to make a TIFF file, and then it's going to load up. Nik Silver Effects. So we just have to give it a second to prepare that file, and then fire up Nik Silver Effects and load it in. And then I'll share Nik Silver Effects with you once Nik comes up. If you haven't used Nik, N-I-K, Nik Silver Effects, it's probably the best processing engine for black and white imagery that exists. Pretty much every serious black and white photographer at some point moves to Nik Silver Effects or uses Nik Silver Effects as part of their workflow. Okay, so that's what I'm just going to show you a little bit of now, because you can do things in Nik that you just don't get the same look and feel from Lightroom or from Capture One or Luminar or whatever it is, Photoshop, whatever else you're using. Okay, so it's fired that file up. Nik is now obviously coming up in the background. So let me stop sharing Lightroom. And let me see where Nik is. Nik is just starting up. Here's Nik coming. Oh no, that's Lightroom. Right, Nik Silver Effects. Right, it's coming up on my screen now, so I can now share it with you. Lightroom, where's Nik? Silver Effects, here we are. So here's Silver Effects, and it's just loading the image up now. And here's the image. So Nik gives you on the left-hand side, a kind of library of presets. So these are kind of predetermined looks that you can apply to an image, okay? And there's all kinds of stuff in here. My machine's doing a bit of a go slow. There we are. So, you know, we could apply a faded look, and when you click on this, then it applies it to the image, okay? And so these are kind of a starting point to play with different looks and different feels of an image, and it'll make your images look. But I mean, kind of that's just a bit like an Instagram filter, really. So what I've done is I've taken a few of these and kind of favorited them, and then I've perhaps gone something like a high structure look. Okay, so here's a high structure look. So let me click on this compare option here. So we've got a little slider in the middle of the shot now. Okay, so the left-hand side of the slider is the image straight out of Lightroom, and the right-hand side of the slider is the image with whatever filter I've currently got applied. So just by using high structure, I can go from that to this, and look at the detail that comes out on the wall and on the, and this is much more of the kind of look that I want from my street photography. It's gritty and it's detail filled, if you like. So what I've done is I've taken a few of these basic presets, but then I've tweaked them to some of the stuff that I like by changing some of the stuff on the, you know, the detailed settings. So one of the presets that I use a lot is this one called Black and White Strong. Now, it's overdone for this image, okay? So that's too much, yeah? It's gone too far. But let's just say, okay, we'll run with that for now, and now let's just pull some of this stuff back, okay? So what I want to do is I want to maybe pull the contrast back a little, because the contrast is very, very, very high there. I'm going to, let's see what we can do with the shadows. Let's bring the brightness back in some of the shadow detail there. Okay, now this is getting better now. So we've got the detail back in her top, okay, but we've still got this pretty full dynamic range. It's skewed, you can see the histogram, it's skewed very much to the darkest areas. And I've actually crushed the blacks. You can see the black end of the histogram is right up against the left-hand side of the histogram. I don't care. This is my image, all right? And I don't have to stay within the histogram. What I'm looking for is an image that I'm happy with visually, okay? So that's fine. I don't mind that I'm crushing some of these blacks, because blacks in a black and white shot, some of them should be black. Yeah? We don't want grays. We want blacks, and we want kind of close to white. So I'm kind of happy with the way that now looks, but I want to do more with the edges. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm burning the edges. So all edges too. So with no burning, that's the image. Okay. So I want to burn the edges. I want to kind of apply a vignette. But one of the things Nick lets you do is adjust each of the edges separately. So I want more darkness in the bottom area of this image. So I'm going to choose the bottom edge, that's this one. Let's make it very strong, and then let's increase the size. So I'm going to, if you like, pull the bottom edge up now. And you see how now it's creeping up into the image. Yeah, and then I'm just going to knock the strength off a little bit, just to soften that, just that bit. But you see, that gives that kind. So we're almost now in a kind of like a pool of light, with the bottom just leading the eye into the girls. Yeah, I want a bit more on the right hand side. So again, choose the right hand edge, and then I'm just going to push the size, just bring that right hand edge in a little bit more. There we are, and maybe the top as well. The left hand edge is fine. But the top, I just want a little bit more pushed down, just towards the top of the girl's head. There, that's fine. So I'd be kind of happy with that, maybe as a general edit, and then go back, hit the save button. So that's now going to save that image as a new image, and it's going to drop it back into Lightroom. So Screen sharing has stopped. Share the Lightroom screen again, which is this one. Go back to G for grid.
Joe, just before
Yep.
we carry on in Lightroom, can I just ask a question regarding unique effects that you've just been using? I noticed it was Pro 2. I think the majority of our club have got access to the free version of Nick. So some of the tools that you illustrated just may not be there. I don't know.
Oh, they are. They are actually. Yeah. I mean, none of the stuff that I've shown you is new to Pro 2 or actually 3. It's actually version 3. I've updated it to the very latest version, but it still calls it Pro 2. But all the stuff I've just shown you is available in the free version of Nick that you may have access to as well.
The point that I just wanted to clarify, you know, on the presets on the left-hand side of the left-hand panel, where you got 30 or so presets, have you tailored those presets to your taste? So if you got a preset and you adjust the sliders on the right, and then come out of that, are those sliders left in that default in your position, or do they go back to default? Right.
What you can do is when you go off to the right hand side and you tweak the sliders, let me just show you this. Let me share it. Nick. Okay. So if I just load that photo again into Nick, file, edit in, Silver Effects. Dum, dum, dum. There we are. Just give it a second to throw it into Nick. And then I'll show you. It's very easy, actually. So, right, here it comes. There we are. So there's our photo in from Lightroom.
Yep.
So you choose one of the standard presets. Okay. Now there are a few new presets in the newer version, so you may not have all these presets, but you know you could. So let's just say you wanted a lighter look. So let's say we're going for the overexposed look. Yeah. You wanted that look.
Yeah.
And then you wanted much higher structure, and you wanted to put in you know, edge burn, stuff like this with a really, really strong left-hand edge burn, you know, because this was going to be used in some kind of book cover or something like that. Okay, so that's your set. That's your thing. Now what you do is, you can save that as a new preset. So you go over here to plus on the custom, okay, and you can call that Joe's strong left edge. Yeah. And that's now a new preset.
Okay.
Okay, so that is now in the custom view. Yeah, and there we are, Joe's strong left edge. So now you see, so there's my high key burned edges. And then if I wanted to apply that one that I just created, I just click on Joe's strong left edge and it applies it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really easy, isn't it?
Yep. Thank you.
So I'll cancel out of that and I'll come back to Lightroom. And we'll, in fact, I don't, yeah, okay, I'll come back to Lightroom and then just, so there we are, Lightroom Plastic. No, I don't think that shared it, did it? Oh yes, you're seeing Lightroom now. There we are. So here's the before, and there's the after. And if I press N for survey mode, and then Shift and Tab, just to close the left and right right panels down, you can see the difference between the original shot with just the standard black and white conversion in Lightroom and the processed shot with my processing in. And as I say, you might look at that shot on the right and say, I hate that shot. Yeah, you know, I don't like it. It's too gritty, it's too grainy or whatever. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's a personal taste thing. But if you like, that's my vision of these type of street images, if you like, that I'm looking for.
The one on the right has got atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it just gives a bit more something, doesn't it? So that's what I've gone for. Okay, so that's Lightroom. How are we doing time wise? We're probably pretty much on time, are we? Yeah. If you give me another 10 minutes, I'll show you some of the other images. I know I'm on 2 hours, but it's up to you guys. If you guys have got another 10 minutes, I have. So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
I don't know, so we're all fine, I think.
Right. Well, then let me share the.
One of our members has had to leave.
Yeah. But
said,
you're recording anyway, aren't you? So it's,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, all right. So let's so there's a few slides there on workflow. We can just skip past. Come on. There we are. So they just take you through the steps. So just leave them on for a second or two, and then if you're looking at them later, you can always pause them. So after a month or two, a friend of mine was round at my house and he was looking at this stuff, and he said, you should do something with this. You're actually building up a body of work. So one evening I was sitting waiting for Penny to come out of the bath, actually, so I could go and have my dip. And I realized that I was spending about an hour a night just scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, basically wasting time. And so I unloaded Facebook from my computer, and I decided to use that hour. And for the next 6 weeks, I put an hour in every night writing a book. Okay. And 42 hours later, 7 weeks later, I had a book on street photography, kind of telling you the story that I've been telling you tonight, and then illustrated with a load of the images from the collection and stuff like that. And I laid these all out. And then I came across this thing called Amazon KDP, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to upload your manuscript, especially if you can do it in PDF format. But even if you've just got the words, and format them all up and put them into a format that is suitable for publication as a book and as a Kindle book, as well as a paperback. So I did that, and I got Penny, my wife, to design the cover for me, which is, as you can see, using images from the collection. And Penny's a graphic designer. She's much better at the design stuff than me. And we uploaded the interior pages and the cover, and 2 days later I'm a published author on Amazon, and that was one of my bucket list items. So I wish Mum had survived to see it. She would have been so proud, but she didn't. But anyway, so I now have a book on Amazon, and I sell a few every week. It's not going to make me rich. I'm not going to retire on it, but I can put on my kind of byline, author. And I'm very proud of it. And and it's sold all around the world. I've sold copies in South Africa and Asia and America and all over Europe and the UK and stuff. So it's lovely to think that a few people anyway are reading about my exploits and looking at my images, and I've had some nice emails back and stuff from people saying that they've enjoyed it. If you want to, sorry, question, yeah.
I was just going to say, could you just repeat briefly just how you get it into Kindle, Amazon?
Well, if you Google KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. Okay, I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat. There we are. Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP. If you just Google that, it takes you to the Amazon site, and they walk you through it. It's fantastic. Okay, so if you've got a book in you, and you've always wanted to write that book, or publish it, KDP will allow you to do it for nothing. There's zero cost. Yeah, They will give you the ISBN barcode on the back and everything, as long as you only want to sell it through Amazon. There's no cost. Yeah, because you only pay for the books that are printed, and they print on demand. So when a book is ordered, then they print it and they ship it. And my little book of 143 pages, it's 6 inches by 9 inches, 143 pages. It costs €2.48 to print it. So you can order as many copies of the book as the author for the printing cost, and only just then, you know, pay the shipping. Yeah. So for instance, I have a box of 50 downstairs, and, you know, pre-COVID, I would take those off to the talk in the village hall or whatever, and I'd take my books and I'd put a few out, and I would sell, you know, 5 or 10 of them at a tenner each, and just make a little bit of extra like that. But they cost me €2.38 to print, and then, you know, a tenner for shipping or whatever. So it's a very, very cost-effective way of doing books. And we also recently did a book for a friend of ours, a kind of memoirs book for a friend of ours' dad, and we tried color photos in that book, and the color photos came out beautifully. So color or black and white work really, really well, using KDP.
Thank you.
So if you want to go and have a look at the whole collection, it's on my website, which is houghtonphoto.com, and then there's a link on the menu bar to Streets of Dublin, or you can type in that whole thing, and that will show you all the images. They're also on Instagram. As I said earlier on, I'm a teacher. And I love the thought of other people using my images for creative pursuits. So I put together a couple of flyers for some local schools. And what we've done with some of the local schools is we print out like 100 or 200 of the images. If you imagine an A4 sheet of paper, okay, we put the image on the left-hand side, and then we put a blank rectangle on the right-hand side of the page. And we just spread these all out on a table. And we say to the kids, right, go and find a photo that you like. So they go and choose one of the photos that they like from the table. And then they take it back to their table. And now, right, you've got half an hour, write a story. Yeah, or write a poem. Yeah, in the box on the right-hand side next to the photo. In half an hour, you've got a little class exhibition. And all the mums and dads can come in and see those on the wall, and, you know, and they can share them with their gran or their grandma or, you know, whatever. Fantastic. And it gets the juices flowing, and it's using imagery and storytelling and creativity in lots of different ways. I've even put a pitch to the Royal Irish Academy of Music, and they're actually thinking about using this for some of their composition classes. So again, you know, rather than writing a story, the students are actually going to take the images, but then they're going to write a piece of music that the image kind of evokes in them, and then we'll get a concert, or we'll get a CD out of it or whatever, which will just be like amazing. So it's kind of taken me into this kind of stuff. I was on the Fuji cast with Mullins and Kev Mullins and Neil James last year. I've been featured in Big Issue and a few magazines, and it really propelled me into the Camera Club talks as well. I've delivered this particular talk 30, 40 times in the last 4 months to clubs all over the world. So let's just show you a few of the images. This is one of my favorites. See you later. Now I know I'd said that I was going square with my images, but shut that door. Sometimes an image, even though it works as a square, sometimes works better in a more traditional kind of landscape crop. So there's the square image, okay? And I love that image. I'm happy with that image. But here's the same image out as a landscape. Okay, so let me take you back to the square. Nothing wrong with that. But then when you add the extra width, you get the bike and you get the converging lines kind of accentuated, and you just get more of a sense of space? Well, I think so. So a few of the images I've processed both ways, and you know, I've kept the landscape image for other use, if you like. So that's that one. Work and play. This is this guy walking past one of the pubs in Temple Bar. There's lots going on. You know, he's there. There's this chap here. There's the three in the bar there facing away from him and stuff like that. There's, you know, there's all the detail of the cobbles and the detail and stuff. So it works as an image. But if you give it that extra breathing room, it works even better, because now there's more of a journey through the image. And you get the walrus and the carpenter quotation coming in. You get another story going on here. Look, between you know, these guys talking here and stuff. So there's more to play with. And the same with the Barnwell shot. Now this one, I haven't actually gone wider. What I've done is cropped in and just lost the top and the bottom, the road and the brickwork. Now I love the brickwork in this shot. I love the detail. But if we just crop into the shop itself, you bring out the peeling paint more, and you bring out the door more because they're bigger in frame. And I just, you know, I think that works, but I think that works as well. I actually had this one printed up on a canvas, and it's a 2 foot square canvas, and it's really impressive when this stuff is printed up on a nice bright white canvas. It really does jump off the canvas. Let's go to the next one. As a storyteller, and that's what I'm trying to do with the street photography. I think as a storyteller of any kind, whether you're writing or you're visually storytelling, doorways and archways are one of the strongest elements in storytelling. Because a doorway or an archway is a portal, isn't it? And there's here, there's the portal itself, that transition point, and then there's the world through the doorway, through the archway. So I love archways, I love doorways, and I always kind of, if I find one, I shoot through it and I try and work with it. So I love this particular arch because it's a great shape. There's from a visual perspective, there's always interesting light. There's dark and shadow, and then there's, you know, there's the brightness on the wall and stuff like that. And then this particular day, I was talking earlier on about kind of needing, you know, that second, or those 2 or 3 seconds is all you've got. This just came together. We've got this triangle of these 3 guys. This disreputable looking guy who looks like he's about to mug somebody. Yeah, he's looking a bit wary of him as he's walking through. Yeah, and then this guy just walks into shot and he's looking around and seeing what's going on here, or maybe he's looking at me. And you may not have picked it up, but the Lewis, the tram at the back, we've got eye contact from this guy sitting down in the Lewis as well. Yeah. So there's loads of stuff going on, which a second later, that would have been a totally different shot. Because he would have moved behind him. The Lewis would probably have gone. You know, everything would have moved. And this is one of the magic of street photography, is capturing these instants which are just gone almost immediately afterwards, as well as all the tonal, you know, stuff that's going on as well.
Joe, just a question on that.
Robert,
when you set up like that in the archway, would you be there waiting, and have you got a composition in your mind that you're prepared to wait there for an hour or a couple of hours for it to come to fruition?
No,
or do you just snap and go?
I'm an impatient photographer. I know some people. I know some people will stand and stalk an image for hours. Yeah, I'll put in 10 minutes. Yeah, but if I'm out, I only get the chance to go and shoot relatively infrequently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to move around. I want to work the area, if you like. If I was living in Dublin and it was just a matter of getting up in the morning and going outside, yeah, I might go and stalk for, you know, longer periods of time. But generally, 2 to 5 minutes is about as much time as I'm going to wait for a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. that's just me. I'm just impatient. So, so this is that shot I was talking about the bokeh, Bill Galligan. And so this is a very bright summer's day, middle of the day. And much as I loved shooting Madalena, there's something weird about middle-aged guys going up to beautiful young women in the street and saying, "Can I take your picture, love?" Isn't that kind of it? You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. So what I've done instead is I've actually started to take guys with beards, because as you can see, I've got a beard, and before I had my COVID cut, it was like Bill's actually. So when I find somebody with a good beard, I very often now go up and say, I'm actually a street photographer, but I'm building up a portfolio of guys with beard shots. You know, could I take your portrait? And this one is shot with that little Mica 25mm lens. And look at the bokeh behind him. I mean, it's that lovely swirly oval bokeh balls kind of thing. And you don't get that with the Nikon. With the Nifty 50, you get round balls that are kind of perfect bokeh, and I just love this swirly bokeh that I get with the Mica and with the old Helios lenses. So that's kind of, again, it's me just coming back to the craft of photography and choosing the right kit for what I want out of it. Freddie was up by Christchurch, and I walked up to him and I said, "Oh, I've got to take your picture." I said, "You should be in Game of Thrones." He said, "I am." Yeah. He said, "I'm in Vikings as well." Yeah. And it turns out that Freddie is a chef who in his spare time loves to be an extra on these film shoots and things like that. And he's in quite a number of kind of, you know, Arthurian series and that kind of thing. So again, I mean, just great detail and texture, and really lends itself to the black and white photography. This guy was a grab shot. I was standing on the traffic island in the middle of the road. The traffic was we were just about to go across, and he came up next to me, and I just turned around, took his shot, gave him a big smile. He gave me a smile and rode off, and that was it. Didn't even say a word. But have your camera ready and be ready to focus, you know, instantly. A pathos shot. End of the day, freezing cold. It's been raining. He's obviously tired and a bit miserable. It's in the Temple Bar area in Dublin, and these two American tourists are kind of giving him the eye. These two girls are looking there as well, so there's lots going on. And I just love, you know, his melancholy, and then, you know, the detail of the stonework and the cobbles and the wet ground and all the rest of it. And I took another shot about 5 seconds later. They've gone. These guys have turned around and they're heading off this way. This guy is walking up the street away from it. And all of a sudden we've got this separate shot where he's still looking miserable, and every single other person in the shot has their back to him and is walking away. And it's just like, oh, kind of, you know, a real story shot. This was going to be a texture shot. I just saw the wall and I thought, oh, I'll shoot it as a texture. You know, to maybe put on a composite or something. And then I spotted this Mother Redcaps thing, and I thought, square crop. If I put this in the top right-hand corner, might be something. But then I realised I needed something to balance it in the bottom right. So I waited, Robert. Yeah, and I actually waited about 5 minutes for him to arrive. There was nobody on the street. Yeah, but I did wait. I mean, bloody phone still, isn't it? I mean, still in his phone. Yeah, so many people are just in their phones all the time. Yeah, but at least I got it. You know, so that was okay. That was okay. A bit of a cheap shot. This, I mean, taking shots of other people's art, I'm never that comfortable with. But what I liked with this was the shape of her kind of veil echoed the shape of the archway here, and then the girl coming in round the corner smoking, and I just thought bombs and smoke. It just might make an interesting title. So that's all that was. Here's one of my homages to Cartier-Bresson, the decisive moment shot. He's actually off the floor, as you can see, running through the very cold, wet rain that day as I was standing waiting for the bus to go home. One of the days when taking the bus wasn't quite as fun as normally it is, you know, when you're standing there at the bus stop and there's nowhere to shelter and it's raining. Sure. Here's another of my daily panels. Now, the girl in the middle, I know doesn't fit the panel, but I don't care. It's my panel. I can do what I like with it. Yeah. And I spotted her and I asked her whether I could take a picture. And for some reason, she said, yeah, okay, that's fine. And she kind of walked past me and put herself in this tunnel. This is a kind of construction tunnel. So she was out on the street when I'd asked her, but she kind of almost took refuge in the tunnel. So for whatever reason, when I took her photo, I got her in focus, but I dramatically underexposed her by like 3 or 4 stops. When it first came out on the screen, yeah, and I didn't check it I didn't chimp it straight away. But when I put it into Lightroom, it was pitch black, the shot. I thought I'd missed the exposure completely. But because I was shooting in RAW, I could pull it out a little bit. So that's as far as I could pull it out. So it doesn't fit, but I still like it. I still think she's very elegant and she's beautiful. And I kind of applied a bit of a sepia tint to it to make it look like an older shot. So yeah, that was me getting it wrong, but still feeling reasonably happy with it, even though I got it wrong. That's that original panel we've already seen. Zone focusing. If I'd have been using autofocus, I wouldn't have got this shot, because the autofocus would have been confused with the reflections on the windows, and it would have picked that up. So what I did was I zone focused out to 15 feet, which is about as far as, well, it is as far as I was from the two of them. I'm at, I think, f7-ish, something like that. So I've got a reasonable depth of field. So I know those two are bang in focus. And then I waited for him to come into shot. Okay. And I took a couple of shots and I got this one just as he's coming into shot. So there's a bit of movement. There's the blur. So we've got blur and sharpness. We've got framing because he's walking into shot. So he's moving the eye naturally into these two. Yeah. And we've also got depth because now he's a foreground object and these are midground objects. Okay. So we've got some depth in the shot as well. So I was thinking about these different areas of composition and what might make the shot even more powerful. Because I think it probably would have worked even without him, but I think it's better with him. And then obviously, you know, these two are really interesting characters with all the tattoos and the mucky boots and all the rest of it. So yeah, I was happy with that one. That was just, I just thought she looked really stylish on the day. So that was just a grab shot. That was a humor shot. This is a cardboard cutout thing. So I just waited for a couple of people to go underneath. I wish he'd looked up. That would have just made it, wouldn't it? But he didn't. But I've sold that 2 or 3 times to locals who know that antique shop and like the shot. They said they like the processing and stuff. So then it's just a few more kind of general shots around Dublin. There's a very famous shot by Cartier-Bresson of a nun sitting on a park bench, which is just here. Okay. Now, she got up and she was feeding the birds. So I would have loved her on the park bench, but she got up. Yeah. But this, again, it's kind of one of my little homages because the Cartier-Bresson shot has a gull like this with its wings spread. I consciously overexposed this shot because it was so bright that day. It hurt your eyes. You know, it was that bright. Yeah. So I overexposed it to really blow out the whites on the gulls. But I wanted to get that sense of heat and just so bright, the brightness in the middle of Stephen's Green on that hot summer's day last year. Another waiting shot. Set it up with the archway and the leading lines and then just waited to see a little bit of movement and then took the shot. And sure enough, he walked in, so he's blurred a little bit. He's looking towards me, so it just works quite nicely.
I think with them as well, Joe, where you were saying about you fear the confrontation, and some people do fear that confrontation. If you're shooting down an archway like that, you tend to find that these people apologise for getting in your shot.
That's right.
Even though you've waited for them.
Even though you've waited for them, and you're actually saying thank you for making shot for me. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, a similar type of shot. I loved it.
Friday, a woman was walking down the street, and I turned to photograph her, and she immediately stepped to one side and tried to walk around me.
Yeah, yeah. Sure. And then I think the last couple, yeah. So this one was a composition shot. I mean, I'm on the front of Christchurch on the deck. There's a raised deck, and it was raining, and I knew that my post-processing would really be able to bring out these circles in a way that they don't actually come out when you're looking at them. Okay, but that's the black and white processing has really brought those circles out like that. And then I saw the guy with the umbrella walking into the grounds of the cathedral, and I just hoped that he would come in. And sure enough, he came in and he was just in the right place to put himself on that section there. So, I mean, it's just a simple shot, but I think it's an effective one. And then the very last shot is, there's the nuns, which is a tiny one. And then this is my last shot, which is one of my first shots, actually. And again, go into the archway, shoot back out through it, and then she walked it past. And I processed this one very grey because I just thought she just looked so sad. And she was just kind of walking home, and it was, 6 o'clock in the evening or something. And, it looks like she's going home to maybe your own empty house or whatever. You make those stories up in your head, don't you? So I processed this one very grey and just made her quite small and used the archway to kind of frame her. I think, yeah, that's it. I'm done. So that's one of my many talks. I will stop the share.
Okay, Joe. Before you, can I just ask a question before I sum up?
Do John. And I so apologise for running over time, but
no, not at all.
Don't apologise. I wish you could go on another hour.
That's very kind of you.
It's totally different technicality. Did you say earlier you were a MacBook user? The Mac?
Yes, I'm on a Mac, yeah.
Oh, that's Alexa talking to me. That's when Alexa says, "Oh, sorry, I don't know that one." But what I was going to ask you is, what was the presentation software you're using to show your images and all your work, etc.?
Well, I've used PowerPoint for the slides.
Oh, was that PowerPoint, was it?
Yeah, that's just PowerPoint. But when you use PowerPoint, I don't kind of go into the normal view of PowerPoint where you kind of do the presenter view, because that means I lose you guys and stuff on the screen. So I just use the normal editing of the slides, but just kind of hide everything else.
I see. Okay.
Just show you the slides.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, then I've got one word to say, and that's inspirational. It's been a wonderful morning. As you said, you've gone well over 2 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I was enjoying myself too much.
Nobody's complaining, We've still got 15 in. I did have one leave at about 12:30 because he got an appointment elsewhere. So yeah. That's the only one that's gone. So absolutely wonderful. And the way you process the images, I think a lot of us would share your taste in the way you've processed them. And really, it's been a wonderful morning. So I can't say anything more or less than that. So,
well, super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Joe, you've got one more sale of your book.
Oh wow, Rob! Thank you.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, you can come again.
I'm predominantly a black and white worker. I always have done. I used to do colour slides to make the number up in film, and I'll do a bit of colour. Well, I do quite a bit of colour now. It's digital, but I'm predominantly a black and white worker. And to be honest, the way you work is very similar to the way I work.
Fabulous.
You get so much pleasure out of it, and as you said, the Fugees, they give you a new inspiration on photography. Because I started off with a Praktika. I had a couple of Zorkis.
Yeah.
I've had rangefinder Fujifilm cameras, and I ended up for me big film stuff with a 6.7 Connie Amiga American rangefinder.
Oh wow! Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah. No, I mean, I've as I say, it's rejuvenated my photography, and it's rejuvenated my other photography as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I fell in love again with photography.
With your twin lens reflex, I just counted up. I had 8 different twin lens reflex cameras over the years.
You have a bad case of gas, John, same as me.
I have very bad. I've cut down on that, but I generally get the urge as I did with my X Pro 2. It was just got to have.
You need a new camera. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I told my wife what a bargain I'd had out. It was nearly 1,400 quid a few months before, and now it's only 500.
Yeah, it's only 500, dear. Yeah, it's a bargain. Yeah, I should have bought 2. Yeah. Well, look, thank you very much for having me.
Well,
Thanks for coming.
Joe, I think everybody's thoroughly enjoyed it this morning.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. So,
John, can you try and arrange another lecture with Joe?
Well, I've got one to do with South Africa at 5:30 as well. So yeah, I'm on in South Africa at
I
5:30.
will be in touch via the email system.
Super. And if you get a chance to, if you enjoyed it, maybe if you could pop a review on the UK Photographers page or whatever, that helps me get other gigs as well. That would be lovely. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. But no, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it this morning.
Exceptional, Joe. Really exceptional.
Great
Good
way
morning
to spend a
everyone.
Wednesday morning. Yeah, lovely. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Get out up Dudley this afternoon.
They don't come much better than that, do they?
No,
Really.
I agree, John.
In 40 odd years, that's one of the best talks I have seen. It's my kind of photography, but that was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
You could have gone on for another couple of hours and I wouldn't have got bored.
Well, I liked he was very open about the way he did it. He was quite happy to show you what he'd done, how he'd done it and everything. Really good.
It's funny as well. The best 2 we've had have come from Ireland.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, they have, yeah.
Yeah. The water over there.
A lot of Irish, and they've got a unique sense of humour.
Yeah, but he wasn't Irish, was he?
Oh, he wasn't, but living there, you know, it comes across.
He's got an Irish surname.
Yeah, but he's
Born in Leicester.
picked up those traits from living over there for so long.
I would think so, John, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's now just gone 1 o'clock, so I think we've had a good morning and it's time to wrap up and go and have some lunch now.
Yeah.
Well, you've dropped in for one of the best ones we've had, so you've been lucky there.
You really have.
Is she still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's muted, so it's trying to talk while it's muted.
Oh,
You have to press the space bar, Val.
Or John unmute her.
hang on. Where is she? Oh, well,
I've just ordered the book. I have.
Well, we can all share that then. Not that we're miserable.
I can't unmute it. Just sends a message. Ask Val. She's done it now.
That's it.
Yeah. So
Good to see you, Val.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you unmute?
You were unmuted then for a minute, Pat, and then you
Yeah, because I'm on the
yourself.
space bar.
That's it. That's what you need to do.
Okay.
It'll unmute you.
Or you can unmute yourself down the bottom, in the bottom corner. You'll have a microphone.
I'm afraid she's left the meeting.
She's still there. Well,
She's still
Dolly's
here.
still there.
Still there.
Where? Okay, she's not according to my list. She's left the
She's
meeting.
on our list.
She's on here.
Hello, Derek.
She's here. We can see her.
Where?
Hello,
I'm
Derek.
not doing it properly.
Oh yeah, according to the list, she's gone. Honestly, I've got the participants list and your name is.
What about the pictures, John?
Oh, it's moved up. It's moved up. You've moved up. So anyway, there we are.
Oh. She's still talking away and we can't hear her.
Oh, she's unmuted.
Yes, I've
I don't know why. Don't know why.
No. Oh well, I've got to get off, so I will see you all.
Okay.
You, Robert.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Robert.
Everybody, some of us are going to Bodenham Gardens on Friday, so everybody's welcome to come along. 10:30 we're meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't
Okay.
forget to bring your sun hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty
Yeah.
on Friday. Hot Friday.
Okay. I will. Oh, I've got to pause. Stop recording. Stop recording.